good thing about harmonics is that you can take your hand away and it'll keep ringing. Do that, pluck it again, and then take your left hand away. It's still going, right? It works a little bit better too if you pluck closer to the bridge. Here it's a little bit more pronounced. Yeah. That's the way to tune. Do you know what I mean? Tuning with the visual thing is really cool, but wasn't that kind of frustrating to watch? Like, because it's hard for it to pick it up sometimes. At least I find it frustrating. It's just like it's the same with this one.
We have tuners at school that you can plug it like directly into the tuner.
Those always work better too. Yeah, and I've got like one of the little clip-on ones
Yeah,
that I use.
I have one of those. It's in my case at school.
But always using our ears, you know, in any sense, that's the way to go. Are you familiar with the harmonics that are here and here? Check this out. So the same way that you played that harmonic, and we're talking about tuning really, but we're also talking about some of the physics of the bass, just to get started, right? So you hit this harmonic here, that's what that's called. It's basically a part of the overtone series. It's something to do with physics, I have no idea, right? If you keep cutting the string in half, you'll hear these harmonics. Another one like way up here, but they're all over the place. So on the G string, where the your 7th fret is, hit that harmonic there. So yeah, you hear how it's really high pitched, right? It's an octave higher on note D. So if you hit this harmonic right here, and then hit the 5th fret harmonic on the D string, they should be exactly the same pitch. We already knew your G string's in tune because we just tuned it to that. And so it's the same thing, and if you hit it, it'll keep ringing. Right, so then you can take away your left hand and hit the next one and see if they match. Yeah, so you gotta stay, it's a little bit, you gotta stay right over the fret metal versus, you know, just behind it like how we would normally play. So I do it like this, and I'm sorry I'm not amplified, it's I figured we'd just get started. So I'll hit this one, the high one first, and then the next lowest one, because if I pluck this way, I don't have to worry about stopping that G string. Whereas if I do the D string first, then I'm probably gonna pluck back and stop that D string. Make sense? Cool. So they sound equal to me. But you can really hear, it's really pronounced if, sorry, does this thing safe here with you, with your camera? Okay.
Yeah.
Can I, just because your bass is plugged in, can I use your bass? So I'll do that, that's the way that I tune. I get my pitch either from a piano or from a tuning fork or from some kind of, and I'll use the clip-ons too, but you hear how it's a different sound when I plug back here closer to the bridge versus here. That has a good sound, but it speaks a little bit better when we're playing harmonics to be around there. And so the idea is, right now that's how to tune, right? You can hear them together. Right? That just means the waveforms themselves are not lining up right. Not the tune. Right? And we're using our ears and it sounds right. That's always the way that feels. I was also like trying to get my hands on this bass a little bit just to see what it feels like. It feels really good. It's a nice bass. And I always love P basses too. Excellent. So, tuning, right? That's a really important thing because we're going to be in tune. The first thing anybody notices about our playing is our sound, right? So, it's a big deal. What questions might you have, or anything?
So last year is when I started like playing bass, but I was never really taught. Because I mentioned to my 8th grade band director, because she wanted to do jazz band, so I mentioned to her that I was playing bass, like learning to play. So she put me on bass for jazz band, but like she doesn't know bass, so she never taught me. All I got was a fingering chart.
That's a very common situation.
And,
not a lot of
the
band
same
directors
thing
play
is
bass.
happening this year with Middleton.
Okay. So you're a freshman.
Yes.
At the high school. What high school are you in?
Second.
Second. Okay. And Middleton. Okay, cool. So yeah, that's a very common thing. A lot of band directors don't know how to play bass, and the ones that do just kind of barely know how to you know, and it's what it is. That's why we have lessons and
Mhm.
we come. So, you got a fingering chart, so you know what the notes are on the instrument?
For the most part.
Can you play me a C on the A string? Great. Can you play me an F on the D string? What about an F on the E string?
Oh wait.
There you go. What about an F on the G string? This one's gonna be higher up the neck.
Yeah.
It's okay. I'm just feeling you out. It's our first time hanging, so I'm like trying to figure out. Can you play me an F major scale?
I don't know.
Okay,
scales.
cool, no problem. Before we get into like note name, like that's good. You know where some of the notes are in the lower area of the bass, and that's super because that's where we need to be as bass players, not higher up on the neck, especially getting started. Do you know what I mean? Our role is to be the foundation, hook up with the drums. Do you know what I mean? Getting all that together. Let's just talk about sound. Like we talked about tuning. With your right hand, when you play pizzicato, can you just play me the open A string? Like just keep repeating it. Cool. Can you alternate your fingers? Okay, cool. So I will grab my bass for this. You're kind of pulling up a little bit. Try to get this, don't try it, just do this. Pull back into the next lowest string. Or pull back straight towards your thumb. Much better. That's the way to go. It's really common for newer bassists to pull up this way. It kind of makes sense. It kind of comes from like maybe a guitar kind of thing, but always just pulling back. Yeah, you're gonna get the most consistent sound, and this is any music that you're doing. Like if it's jazz, that's cool. If you're playing original music or rock or whatever, the most consistent sound you can get is always gonna work the best. When you alternate your fingers, just play that again. Play between your first and your second. Really play. You can be louder. Nobody's sleeping here. It sounds to me like you're. And now just play one finger. Now alternate. Does it sound different to you? It's got a different one finger sounds a little bit more dominant than the other, and it doesn't sound quite the same. So if you're playing like 8th note rock lines, like repetitive bass lines, use that first finger. That's why people use a pick too, to get that consistent sound. So what that means though is if we're going to try to play faster at some point, you want to think about getting both fingers to sound as similar as possible. Make sense? Cool. So and of course you can move further back. Play your A string there, and then move up this way. A much different sound, right? So in general, we just leave our thumb. I leave my thumb on the pickup, just like this. You can leave it on the E string for like when you're playing those higher strings, like you're already doing. But I just in general leave it right here. Make it nice and easy, and always pulling back towards your thumb or the next lowest string. So if you're like playing on the E string, that's where that comes in handy exactly. And just keep it for another consistency type of concept is just to stay in this area. That's why you want to leave this thumb planted so you get an even sound the whole time. Cool? Nice. So that's a little bit of the right hand. With the left hand, can you play that for me? So starting on the 5th fret. Alright, cool. So let's do one note at a time. Play that first note, C. Cool. In your right hand, you already forgot when you just told me, man. Come on. That's all good. So just pull back to this string. Pull back. Yeah. So it's a habit, right? You've not had a bass instructor yet, or maybe you have a little bit, but yeah, gotta get away from that. We have less control over that. Good. So now here's, while we're just sitting on this one note, another important sound kind of thing is to think about if you rest your finger right here on the C, on this string again, you stop the sound, right? So go ahead and pluck that C and let it ring as long as possible. So what do you have to do in your left hand to get that note to ring long? So if you did this and you took your hand away, it would stop ringing, right? So in order to get a really long sustain on your notes, you have to keep the finger down. It seems obvious, right? But sometimes it's those little details that we really need to think about. So when we go to play, I'm thinking about connecting those notes and making them as long as possible and going one note into the next, like without stops. Like you could play like this, and that might be the right bass line for the song, do you know what I mean? But we want to be able to know how to make other sounds, as many sounds as possible. When you're playing jazz, doing walking bass lines and stuff like that, is that what's in this folder? It's like walking bass line stuff? Nice. Just your response, you're like, yeah, like that. It gets better. With walking bass lines, it's going to sound a little bit more authentic, as connected as you can make the notes without breaks between them. Cool? So play that C, and another point I wanted to make is play that, and this is the note C, that's why I'm saying C. You already knew that, right? I asked you where that was earlier. Anyways, I forgot all those notes. Anyways, that's a C. Okay, so play it, and then pluck it again. Okay, pluck it again. So what you're doing here is you're letting your fingers stop the string before you pluck it again. Instead, try to pull through the string. Yeah. Exactly. It's just a slightly different motion, right? So you could do this if you're trying to stop the note. That's the way to do it. You know how to do that already. But everybody, when they first start doing this, needs to work on plucking through the string. So you try that again. Pull back into the next string. Good. Good. I know it seems like a really basic thing, but this is important for sure. Good. So back to the left hand, which is the hand we're using on the fretboard, right? When I'm playing, a lot of times here, I'm thinking about using one finger per fret. So playing up this way, which is why I had you do that. Before I even play any of those other fingers though, when I just have my first finger down on that note C, I'm thinking about having my hand over the fingerboard. You know, I tell my like younger bass students, like just like be like a ninja. Like you never see a ninja like moving more than they need to, or like even a spider or something. They just move the exact amount they need to. It's never like this.
Yeah,
you know,
I've always had that issue, especially on my saxophone. I like go like that.
For sure. Yeah, super common, super common. So just as much as possible, the tiniest movements are always going to help you with like going faster down the road, you know, like when it's time to go fast, and also with endurance. Because think about it, the less amount you need to move, the less energy you're going to expend, you know, and it also just helps you to get back to where you need to go faster. Whereas if I was like this, obviously I couldn't go very fast with that. So do this for me. Before you even play that first note with your first finger there, get your pinky over where it's going to play. And that means like, you know, like if I play, if I'm going to go for this note, I need to have my finger right behind the fret metal for it to sound the best, right? If I'm a little bit further back, I'm sure you've heard and had this happen before, everybody does. That means you don't have the right placement. You need two things, you need pressure and you need placement, okay? So pressure, obviously, if I don't press down hard enough, you get that kind of sound, and there's enough pressure. Placement, I'm pressing down really hard, but it's just in the wrong spot. So that means with each of these fingers, I'm already thinking about placement before I play them. And they're just ready to go over the frets, you know, so I can just hit everything inside of this, like, whatever quadrant or whatever, you know, it's all available. So do this for me. Let's play like, play this top note twice. Now join me. I
tend to do my whole body.
Oh, right on. Yeah, everybody feels rhythm in a different spot, so I'm for that too. It's usually my head. That's usually what's happening. But yeah, so we can obviously tap your foot along with stuff or not. I don't really care.
It really depends on the song. Like if Like,
Sure.
depending on what the drum is doing, sometimes I'll like do this.
Ah.
Or I'll like rock back and forth, or I'll alternate feet, or I'll just do one foot.
But you're feeling the rhythm
Mhm.
somewhere other than in your hands, right?
Mhm.
Cool. I like that. Excellent. Can you play me that same tempo and those same 4 notes as clearly as possible where you're pulling through the string? You played with your second finger on your right hand, which is totally fine. How about this time do it with your first finger? I just want to hear what that sounds like. Make them nice and long to where if I recorded them, you know what waveforms are? Have you ever seen like a waveform
Oh, yeah.
picture of it, right? It's got peaks and valleys, stuff like that, and it's got an attack. Like when we hit the note, it's like here, and then like play your C, attack, and it's slowly getting lower, right? So what I want you to do is to play that same tempo that we just played. You've got that in your memory, sure, right? And never let it get down to 0. Like always have a little bit of sound before you attack again. Cool? Thanks. Okay, hold on, sorry, I gotta stop you. Before you play that first note, just exactly, right on. Let's try it again. It's okay. Nice, Andy. Excellent. Great. I saw your hand open up. I saw you were like looking over here, thinking about what you were hearing, right? I like that. That's cool. Try a couple more things with this. You pluck a little bit harder in your right hand. Don't be shy about playing into the bass a little bit more than you are already, okay? Just play a little bit louder. Let me hear. Can you play louder now? Good. I like that sound. That sounds great. Nice. That sounded awesome. I like that volume and that sound you're getting out of the bass. That sounds great. Just another, I talk about sound a lot because it's a really important thing, okay? So I'm sorry if I'm really boring you with it. We're gonna get into anything else you wanna get into as well, but I consider this stuff to be really important. When you're playing just now, it looked a little bit like this. And what I would like you to try to do is a little bit more like this. What's the difference?
I was going like this.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that's honestly, that's okay with me. If you feel that, that's okay, because it doesn't affect the sound. That's the only reason. But yeah, I pull my fingers in like this, and that's coming more from like playing upright bass. But anyways, a lot of folks will leave their fingers on the strings here too, and that's another thing I wanted to say is like when you played a minute ago, did you hear the other
that's why
open string
I was
ringing?
doing that.
Ah, there you go. Yeah,
'Cause
exactly.
I tend to hit this string and then it makes noise.
Sure. Yeah. So just getting used to like having your other fingers just touching the strings is a good way to go. Sometimes people will, use their hands in different ways, or use the thumb to come across this way, or use the left hand to stop the strings. But the way I've got you doing this right now, that's not an option. So for me, I actually just go like this, I think. So I've got one finger on each of the strings, they won't ring. But what I was trying to get you to know, not the left hand, or the right hand thing, was in the left hand, to play on the tips of your fingers a little bit more, because right now you're like this. Can I borrow your bass again?
Yeah.
We'll just trade, if you don't mind. So, where are we at? So the difference in, not a bad sound, and usually you can get away with this. It's actually kind of negligible. They both sound the same to me. But a lot of times this will fault, and especially on upright bass, should you start playing upright bass ever, this is also going to give you a less quality sound.
They are trying to get me on upright for one of our songs for our concert. We're doing A Child Is Born, and it's super easy, so they're trying to get me on upright for it.
Excellent. Have you played me upright before?
Once.
Once? This one would be fine for, it's all pretty much in the lower position, except when we get to the C section, it looks like. But if we learn it on electric bass, you will have it more in your ear. So when you go to the upright, you can find it. Do you know what I mean? So using your ear. But yeah, just this is the last thing I'll get you doing, and then we'll talk about your music and making bass lines and stuff like that. But I want you to play just with your fingertips like this. You behind the neck, right? And right behind my second finger. Do you feel that on that instrument? It's about the same size neck, it just feels really similar. Yeah, exactly. Right, yeah, and with the notes being as connected as possible, right? Cool, all right, let's take that. Cool. Can you play it for me on there so I can hear it? Sorry, that second finger didn't really work. So go a little bit slower, and I want to hear all of those notes sound really good. Play with your index finger in your right hand for me. Okay, cool, but that's not the sound that we agreed on a minute ago. Get that same sound for me. Pluck harder. Long notes, get them connected. And let's go a little bit slower, like. Good. Pulling through the string, right? That gets you every time. I'm going 4 to 3, right? So that's what I call, I have a lot of bad analogies, and that's what I call like the part of the shirt that we really need to iron out because it's got really terrible creases in it. Because I've seen you do that like 4 or 5 times now, right? So that means that we isolate that little section. And you just repeat that, right? And we go slower with it, right? Pinky, third finger. Good, I like that you're keeping your other fingers on the string and keeping those notes down, right? Try to just lift up your pinky as little as possible. I'm sure you like hearing that, coming from your sax playing background. I'm sure you heard that a bunch, right? Come on, Annie, get those fingers down. Okay, so a little different, slightly different thing is that you've got your fingers kind of like here. Try to get a little bit more curved. There you go. Yeah. Nice. That's looking better. Another one of my bad analogies is to think about there being magnets in the tips of your fingers. And you have to work really hard to get them away from the string instead. Do you know what I mean? Feel that weight this way. Like this is the gravity that way. Good. Get that sound. You've kind of got the same thing happening right now. Do you keep your fingernails a certain length?
I usually keep it pretty short.
Do whatever with it. Yeah, so right now my fingernail on my right, in the first finger, is just a little bit longer than this one, accounting for a much different sound, right? Can you play your first finger? Well, it's not catching it. It sounds clear, but sometimes the fingernail will get in there, so you want to be cool with that too. Okay, so now that we've isolated that a little bit, keep going. This time, try to just really focus on your pinky, keeping it right above where you just played. So your pinky just flew off again, Andy. Try to keep it right above the string. Better. Yeah. Good. Okay. I know you're balancing a lot of plates. Keep doing that. But in your right hand, pull back through to the next string. There you go. Good. Keep doing it. Land your fingertips. Good. Get that pinky over the fingerboard. Good. You okay? Cool. How does it feel? Okay? So, major scale. Kind of ubiquitous, you kind of have to know it. And there's a really easy pattern on the bass that you can use like to play every single one of your major scales. Especially if you know where the note names are on the fingerboard, then your band director can say, hey, play me F flat major scale. And you go, hey, no problem, F flat. And you do this pattern every time. This is the pattern. 2-4, 1-2-4, 1, 3, 4. That's ascending, as in going up. 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4. So if we get our hands just situated 1 finger per fret, we can start anywhere. Say I'm going to start here, which is an E natural. On the A string, it's the 7th fret. So on the A string, and then up another dot. So you're on the D string, just go down to the A string.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you got it. It's all good. So this is our pattern. We're gonna keep my hand over like this same grid that we were just doing a minute ago, right? I'm gonna play my 2nd finger. Go for it. Now 4th finger. Good. Now don't let your 1st finger really like kind of creep over this way. Everybody wants to do that. So E to F sharp. Great. Now 1st finger on the next string. 2nd finger. You remember the pattern? Good. Keep going. Sweet. Now just when you go higher, just keep those fingers down like you were doing when we were playing those 4 notes all together. So when we go up this way, because I'm going to ask you to go back down the scale, might as well keep those fingers already there. You know what I'm saying? But let's start from the beginning again. So start on this E again. And now when you're playing from one note to the next, look, you've already done it. You've already lifted up your 2nd finger. Do this. Try this for me, Annie. Right. If you just leave that finger down, it will ring into the next note. And then 1st finger. When you go to play that 1st finger, you can't lift up your pinky before you get to that 1st finger. Now you're going to hate me. Just so many little details, right? Try it from the beginning. E. Good. Good. Yeah. You can lift up that pinky now. So it's 2nd finger right there. 3rd finger is on the next string. Good. Leave this finger down as you go higher this way. Always leave those fingers down. Good. Do you hear you getting that buzzing? That's placement. Just reach a little bit further. It's the 3rd finger. Great. Good placement. Excellent. Try going down. So put it all in reverse. 4th finger. Good. Placement, right? Could have been some pressure too, right? Okay, so now you just played the E major scale. Did you know any of those notes? You might know from anyways, but you didn't have to think about the names of the notes while you were playing them. That's the pattern for any major scale. So as long as you know where to start or where to end, you can play all your 12 major scales now on the bass. Cool? So play me an E major scale.
Mix up the last 2.
You did, yeah, you flipped them over, but it actually made a different kind of scale, which is a really cool scale. You played the Lydian dominant scale. Good for you. 2, 1. Good. Awesome. Cool. Yeah, and so I can tell it's like fingering. Like sometimes you want to go 3rd finger where your 4th would be, and you're aware of that. That's the biggest thing, is just being aware of stuff like that. What I'm asking you to do is just keep this grid, these fingers. It's not really about playing the major scale, it's more about your technique. So you can play other stuff that's much funner and cooler. But keeping, see all these fingers above the strings, placement, I'm keeping this finger down as I go higher. Same here, as I go from this string and switch strings, me plucking this G sharp, which is that 3rd note of the scale, stops the previous note below it because I'm pulling through D string, stopping on the A string. Keep going. These fingers stay down. Same thing happens here. I pull through the G string, and by default, this finger stops that next lower string. As I go down, I'm thinking about these other fingers being down on the string. I'm also thinking about stopping these lower notes. I'm not amplified right now, but when you're amplified, that really starts to resonate, and you'll have sympathetic frequencies, or whatever they're called, make those open strings ring. So just got to be aware of that. There's also muting in the left hand we could be doing, but not so much right now. So as I'm going down here, I'll note that I'm muting with my 1st finger. That's the kind of stuff that I don't think about anymore, but that's something that could help you too. Do you know what I mean? So however you end up making less noise and only the notes that you want. That's the move. You play for me again? Start on the second finger of fret lower. Start where that dot is. That third dot is E.
Here?
You got it. Can you play with your first finger in your right hand? Good. As you go higher, keep your fingers down. Go to second finger. Good. Dope. So now move everything one fret this way. Play the same pattern. Good. Fourth finger. And first finger. Yeah, so that's a really common thing too. We, use these dots as landmarks, you know what I mean? But like as you're coming down, going third finger to first finger there, you shift it. If you imagine there being like walls up this way, and you just simply can't cross them. Keep that in mind, okay? So when we're shifting, we're coming back down the scale. Oh, I just crossed the wall. Can't do that. Do you know what I mean? For the most part, that's all. Everybody's in their own lane, and they stay there. You know what I mean? So I think that's good for not getting turned around and getting things twisted. Cool. So you just play the E flat major scale now. Easy, right? Cool. So there are a bunch of different variations that we can do more going down the road, or you can figure them out, just using your ear or checking out any, there's so much information online. Do you get online and check out bass stuff ever? Like YouTube? Sometimes. Is YouTube a factor in yours? Is that available in yours?
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of great information on YouTube for bass playing. I actually have a bunch of YouTube videos and different courses and stuff like that too.
Sometimes I do, I don't know if you know what Bass Buzz is.
No, not yet.
No, it's like an online course. He bought a membership, but I use his account sometimes to do some lessons.
Is it good?
Yeah,
Bass Buzz.
Yeah, it's really not about. It's kind of like the way I play. It's more figuring things out, but it does show you some scales, and it does show you some other tips and patterns.
Cool.
The whole thing about this guy's lessons, a lot of it is that he shows patterns. So it's like a triangle, or it's like a triangle with one. You learn
and
shapes.
You get the visual.
Yeah.
So can you see the pattern inside of what we just did? So I mean, I do. I see patterns a bunch.
Yeah.
I think they're very helpful.
That's the way he teaches.
Yeah. So if
patterns.
Even if you get away, if you're not around your instrument, maybe you're in school, maybe you're bored, right? Think through those patterns, and particularly once you start. I mean, if you know where the note names are on the bass too, you can figure out all the names of the notes in any of these scales that you're dealing with too. D flat, E flat, F, G flat, A flat, B flat, C, D flat. And what if I change that one note? But while you're doing that and thinking through these patterns, try to use your ear to hear or imagine what it sounds like. Don't just put your fingers, don't move. We're never just trying to move our fingers for the sake of moving them, right? If you can guess or try to hear what's about to come out of your instrument, that's a good thing to be able to do as far as like being creative and making your own bass lines. And also for when you're trying to like steal bass lines from songs that you like. Do you know what I mean? You'll be able to do that a lot better. For instance, play me that E flat major scale again. Good. Okay, chill. So play that first note. Stop. Can you hear that next note? Yeah. Can you hear the next note as you go down? Sing it before you play it. Or hum it. Play this note, an octave. I'm singing lower than you. Da. Play your fourth finger on the G string. Da. going to be notes that are inside of that scale. Hopefully, unless I'm singing really terribly, which is definitely a factor. But just the beginnings of that was like a game that you can play with yourself. Okay? So try to play random notes inside of any of these scales once you get that block going. Da, da, do. Nope. Da, da, do. Da, do. Da, do, do. Do, do, dee. Da, ya, da. Da, da. Dee, ya. Nope. Dee, ya. That's not what I said. Anyways, that's a really good way to get like a little bit more ear involved with our fingers. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So eventually, you're probably gonna be, if you're not already, making up your own bass lines, coming up with stuff as you play with other people. Are you in a band or anything like that outside of school?
No.
Not yet? So once everybody knows that you are a bass player and that you're cool, you're gonna be asked to be in a lot of bands, okay? So just heads up, it's gonna happen. So when that happens and you're hopefully making some original music, it's cool to play covers and stuff like that too. But if you're making original music, using your ears is completely essential. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Towards playing what it is you actually want to do. You know? Cool? Excellent. So just that's a few things. What in this, I kind of steered the conversation a lot, obviously, so I relinquish it back to you.
I really think I need to work on walking.
Okay.
That's like my biggest thing. Like, if I can't play it in my sleep, then I can't play walking bass line yet.
Okay.
Like,
So she memorizes
yeah, I have
things.
to have it
That's
like
cool.
completely. Like, there's music from last year that I can still play because I practiced it so
internalized it.
much and like memorized it because like I just don't know how to play it otherwise.
Yeah, sure. So looking at a written out bass line,
I can't like
Is a problem.
play that unless I have it, completely memorized.
I hear that. How do you have it? Does your ear tell you the bass line? Like if you play a wrong note, can you tell just using your ear, or is it your
If I'm
memory?
familiar with it, usually, yeah.
Is it more, what I'm kind of asking, is it more intellect or is it more just intuitive? Is that
Not sure.
okay? We'll figure that out. So it kind of depends on what you want to end up doing with your musical life and your bass life, how well you want to be able to read music.
Mhm.
I think it's a good tool, and it's just that. It's just a tool because any of this, another bad analogy, did I mention I have bad analogies? Okay, cool. Is that this is just like a crayon drawing. Like this is just a sketch of this actual composition that was arranged by this human. Do you know what I mean? Have you ever heard a recording of this?
We've played it in class a couple times.
Okay. Have you heard like a real recording of this composition played by the band it was written for?
No.
That's a whole other thing. That's kind of like, looking at the Mona Lisa as this masterpiece. Do you know what I mean? It's a bad analogy, I told you, right? This is kind of like a crayon drawing done by a 10-year-old maybe of that masterpiece. Okay? So you can't get every nuance, you can't get the feel, you can't get like the grittiness or whatever else, the beauty, like other intangible type of things from looking at music like this. But there is a lot that you can get from it, right? You can get kind of the skeleton. If you looked at that crayon drawing of the 10-year-old Mona Lisa, you probably could tell, oh, that's a child who's born, just by looking at it perhaps, you know what I mean? But it's not hearing it. It's not being even in the same room with the band playing it, which is a whole nother experience, right? So anyways, that's more personal stuff. So I noticed that you wrote the names of the notes underneath.
Mhm.
That takes me right back to being a freshman in high school. So
Yeah, that's because I'm used to treble clef. Bass clef messes me up.
of course. When did you start playing saxophone?
6th grade.
6th grade? Clarinet around the same time? Or
I don't play clarinet.
oh, I thought you said
No,
clarinet.
I said something about soprano being like the clarinet of a saxophone.
Oh, that's what you said. Right on. Okay, cool. Yeah, saxophone. Yeah. So I never got wind instruments. I play bass. I play guitar. I play drums, piano, anything but wind or brass. Anything breathing, I don't do. But this takes me right back to reading. So, as far as reading goes, it's just really a lot of repetition and practicing through stuff. When you look at this, do you look at the note names underneath each of these still?
Yeah.
You do. So the process of you writing out those note names is a good thing to keep doing. If you just do that to a ton of music, your recognition is going to get way
Yeah.
quicker.
Yeah.
There's obviously, and you know from your reading treble clef, you can probably read treble clef.
Yeah, I can sight read treble clef easy because I've been doing it for 4 years. But
Do you still play saxophone?
Mhm.
Okay, so you're still actively reading treble clef
Yeah.
stuff.
and my school is A and B days, and I have jazz on B days and saxophone on A days.
Okay.
So it's like treble clef and bass clef days. So it like mixes me up.
Well, you're like a polyglot, speaking multiple languages, reading different stuff. That's crazy. So myself, as a bass player, I read treble clef probably better than I read bass clef. Just because I've been in so many situations where I get like what's called a lead sheet that has a melody on it and not a written out bass line to make. Do you know what I mean? It's just more like chord changes. I could show you, but you probably understand what I mean. So treble clef and reading bass clef, I understand, but it will get easier for sure. I read both, and I feel pretty comfortable doing it these days. Every now and then I'll flip. Oh, that should be that's a G, right?
Mhm.
Well, no, not anymore. But cool. Have you played through this before?
Yeah.
But you've not heard the recording of it.
No.
Okay.
This C section does mess me up with the rhythms sometimes
Okay,
because
we'll
they're
get
kind
into
of
that.
funky.
Sure. Yeah, there's some syncopation there, right? Cool. Let's see how well we can do this here. If I make it slow enough for that. This is a little bit faster than this marking is. So for a ballad, do you understand what this loop sounds like, what you're hearing? It's in 3, right? You hear the hi-hat. It's really light. 1. And the sample is playing with brushes on the snare drum, right? But that's the tempo. And this is a little bit faster than this is written, but I think this is not fast, that it's going to throw you off. Can you just play me from top to bottom?
Like the second time, I rest the first time through.
Good question. Yeah, how about that? Oh, sorry, hold on. It's 1, 2, 3. According to this sample, this loop. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You're doing great so far. Cool. Let's just chill right there. So, all of this was awesome. There was a little hesitancy on the beat right here, perhaps because you were looking ahead to the next
Yeah.
line or something like that. But as you have the experience with reading music, you know about looking forward, like a measure, 2 measures, sometimes lines ahead, right, to know what's going on. So that's definitely what's happening. What needs to happen here, as we're taking the time to play this, you can know in your head the duration of 3 beats because you've been doing that already. So your eyes can move ahead forward. You know that's the same thing that's going to happen. Same thing's going to happen. You can look at the direction of the line. You look at the rhythms that are coming up. You don't look down here and worry about getting freaked out by it. You know, you just take it, around a line at a time. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But there was some hesitancy going between the G and the D from the G
Yeah,
that you were
well, that
playing on
was
the D
mainly
string.
because I think I just didn't pluck it right. Like
Yeah.
it just didn't sound.
So
Because
that,
I went for it, but
yeah, I know I saw.
it just didn't.
I think your left hand was still in the way of the string ringing,
Mhm.
but you also have another D that's an option. So you played this G here, and I was wondering if you were going to play the open G, by the way, which you could have done. It's the same pitch.
Yeah.
It has a different sound, though. It has a different timbre to it. Play that G where your third finger is, and now play the open G string. Do you hear how they sound different? Play it again. That's your D string. Play your open G. It's definitely your open G string. Okay, now play one or the other. That's your D string.
No.
It wasn't?
That was open G.
Oh, do it again. Is that your G again?
Yeah.
Now play the D string. Ah, okay. Did you? Or did you try to trick me?
I want to play the G.
Good. So, but you do agree that they have a different sound, yes? So we want to be really aware of that. Obviously, this is like a permanent finger holding this is the nut, right? Holding the strings down right here. It is made of not the same material as our fingertips. It's always going to sound different. It's always going to sound louder and a little bit more clear, honestly. So that's something to consider as far as that consistency of sound goes. If you play, if you fret the notes, you're generally going to sound more consistent in your bass lines. Okay, so that's the G that you chose right there, which is totally a great option. That's totally fine. The D that you could have gone to would be right next door to it, right there. Make sense? Play that G and go to D. It's right there, and good consistency, right? And you know that you're going back to G, so you can do exactly what you're doing, do that bar across type of thing. How about from right here? Thing for me, I'm just nitpicking, do you know what I mean? This all sounds great. You're feeling the beat, you're playing on one. Sometimes it's just a shade behind where the beat should be, but that's okay.
Yeah.
A bigger thing that I'm noticing is like when you're shifting, there's a big gap in the sound, especially going from the C to the F. Just think about it as being as legato as possible, like all of the time, and still until you start actually seeing rests. Cool? Excellent. Can you play that much again for me? From here, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Good. Sorry, why didn't that happen?
I don't know. I just didn't pluck hard enough.
What happened? You didn't pluck hard enough?
Yeah.
Or
I
you
just
missed
kind of like went like that.
Ah, okay. So this is why we practice technique and stuff. Just index finger. Play all of this with just your first finger in your right hand. You like to go to your second finger, it seems like. I'm asking you to play with your first finger. Just all of the time. All of this right now. Okay? So from the same spot, hit right on beat 1. Don't miss it because that's the only rhythm you're playing for this whole thing. I know it seems like really tedious, but it's important to be right on the beat because you're setting the foundation. It doesn't matter that you're playing a great bass line or whatever. You're playing stuff that everybody in the band needs to hear. Do you know what I mean? It's not like a flute part that kind of gets hidden in the section, and it's not like, you know, something more, you know, a smaller portion of the pie. This is big. This is like the crust, you know, like you have to be rock solid. 1, 2, 3. Yep, keep it. Solid notes. Clear attacks. Keep them really connected. Good. Can you hear the next note? Oh. Sorry, I threw you off because I was talking next to you. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Still have the notes connected. So the way that works is you have to be just super fast, or you can set yourself up. That's why looking ahead is the move, right? Exactly. So if you're coming from this G, and you've been playing it here, D, D, I Now I want to go to C. C. You can even do this sometimes if you have a sustained note. You can keep that note down just by getting another finger involved. Kind of works. Yeah, you could also do lightning fast. Yeah, exactly. So just like right at the split second you need to. If you move away from that note too quickly, then you get the pause, the gap in the notes, and everybody will look back at you and stare. Don't do that. It's obvious a very small detail. Obviously, just joking. But your attention to details is what's going to make people hear you and want to hear you more. Same spot. Do those choice. Good. Make it sound consistent. Good. Same. Keep going. Where are we going? Last minute. Good. Keep going. Well, you got 2 Fs, but start at letter B. 2, 3, 2, 2.
Forgot what that finger
It's okay. Yeah, so first fret on the D string, is that where you want to do that? And 4th fret on the E string. Yeah. So let's just back up. Let's start from like right here. 1, 2, 3. Do. Right, so we get down to this A flat.
Yeah.
Do. And the reason that this C is right here is really important too. It's a 5th. 5, 1. It's a really important sound. The 5 chord in relationship to the 1 chord. Do you have any idea what I'm talking about?
Mm.
It's okay. You have somewhat of an idea. Do you know what key this is in?
I don't know the name.
Okay, but it's 2 flats.
Mm.
What's the first chord? We're playing roots, so that usually means we're playing the bottom of the chord. So the first chord would be a B flat, probably major. There's 2 flats in it, right? Okay, so that would be what's called the 1 chord, or the home chord. Like it's gonna go back into the key of B flat. Always gonna resolve there and probably start there, vice versa. You know. So if this is the 1, if we played the B flat major scale, B flat, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that would be an F. 5, 1, 5, 1, 5, 1. That sound of doing the 5 to the 1 is really, really important, and that's what's happening here. 5, 1, or 5, 1. That's an important thing to know. Let's get to the part where you were saying it was a little bit tricky with rhythms. Let's just talk about that for a second. Okay. So you know where beat 1 is, right? So I don't want you to play anything yet. Just think about this rhythm. Don't even think about the notes. If the time is here, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We can see rhythmically, or hopefully we can see where the downbeats are. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Right? 1, 2, 3. 1. And 1. And 1. And as we play ballads and stuff in this tempo, they'll be straight 8ths. They won't be like swung 8ths.
Mhm.
So that's an important thing to know. So just, can you clap this rhythm for me? 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. And it's the same rhythm and repeat, right? Great. And 1, 2, 3. Great. Let's just count and clap the rhythms here. Letter C. 1, sorry, I got flipped around in this. 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 2, 3, and 1, 2, and 3. 1. So we got a little funky right there, right? So the same thing. Just look for the downbeats. 1, 2, 3. And then you can start to see what's on the inside of the rhythms and stuff like that. So 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and down. Okay, let's try it from C again. Now, yeah, let's just keep doing the rhythm. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And 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 1, 2, and 3. Good. 1, 2, and 1, 2. Keep going. 1, 2. We're in the right spot. Okay, cool. So we know for the most part, like probably like 85, 90% of that is that same rhythm. 1, 2, and 1. Right? Remember when earlier you were doing this and it was tricky to go back third finger to fourth finger? That's your place you need to iron a little bit more. You gotta get some water on that, open up that crease, you know, get it opened up. That's this for you. That's a place that needs to get ironed out. Well, I think this was cool. It was a little bit late. I think it was a little bit unexpected. So just looking forward, that's definitely a place to iron out that crease. So what do we mean by that? Let's play. We don't need to practice all of this again, at least rhythmically, because we've just done it and you did a decent job. You know what I mean? So look for the places that you suck at and work on those. You know what I mean? It's a really big practice thing to keep in mind. Don't practice the stuff you're good at. So let's clap this rhythm at D. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. 1, 2. Yeah, dude. I like how you were. I even like the volume at which you were clapping and the confidence at which you were clapping. You know what I mean? Because earlier, sometimes they were like, you know, but man, we're doing this. Might as well do it. Do you know what I mean? Same with the bass lines. If you play like confident like that, it's gonna be great. No matter what situation, jazz band, whatever.
That's what the other bass player. We have 2 bass players in my jazz band. That's what he always tells me.
Confidence?
Because he's a senior,
Uh-huh.
and I got put in the highest jazz band, and I think it's because Middleton wants me to take over for the senior that's graduating this
Cool.
year.
And so that senior's
Yeah.
helping you out. Give me some tips. Keep asking that person questions.
He just keeps telling me to like actually play, because he's like, every time I make a mistake, no one else notices because they're probably not listening.
True.
So
And the best way to get better is to make as many mistakes as possible, loudly and in front of people.
my choir teacher says the same thing.
Is that right?
Yeah, she's like, if you're gonna make mistakes, do them as loud as possible
Heck yeah.
so that I can correct you.
Heck yeah, exactly. Yes. And you know, why hide behind that stuff? You know, that's it needs to be out in the light so we know how to fix it. Okay, so I wanted you to play through this, not so much you know, and I know we didn't play the notes that are here, just so I get like a level on where you're at with like reading and with your rhythm specifically. Do you know what I mean? I know you'd voice something about bass lines, wanting to get better at bass lines because you need to have them memorized instead of being able to play them. But honestly, I don't think that starting that conversation right now is a great idea as far as constructing bass lines. But is there something in here? Oh, you have this. I actually knew or have known Christopher since I was like around your age. So I grew up in Texas and he's from Dallas, I think. Oh, y'all have met each other?
No, when my mom ordered it, she mentioned that Middleton is my teacher, so he signed it.
Oh, okay, cool. Thanks. I don't know this book actually, but I wanted to see what
This is the main beast that I need to get over because
Ah.
it's the entire song is walking.
Oh yeah. You take man, just bring back memories with all these notes written under the names. I love it. This is so me too. It's so me. So something good about this is that for the most part, it's the exact same rhythm until
Yeah.
you get later in the piece, right?
Yeah.
But this is played with the horns and the other sections, right? So
Yeah.
you don't really need to think too much about changing up your rhythms. What you really need to think about is keeping that quarter note like rock solid, steady as possible. Do you know what I mean? And let's do this. So, and we will definitely, at some point talk about the construction of bass lines. I don't want to give you thoughts that I'm not interested in that because I really am for sure. But I just want to hear now how your quarter note feels. Just pick a random note, I don't care which one, a fretted note. How about here actually? Play quarter notes. Just the same note. So what about confidence? Can you play confidently? Can you get more of an attack on the beginning of the note? Good. Pull through the string, don't let it stop. Yeah. A little bit clearer. Move your hand that way. Can you play this note instead of play C? So what I need you to do, sound great rhythmically, get all of those C's to sound exactly the same. Don't let them get lower. You got quieter. Now you're getting louder. What's up, man? Come on. It's hard, right? Okay, so maybe just bring your hand back to over where the pickup was. But we're looking for that clear sound. Consistency. So you're tapping your foot. You thinking like this is what gets other people tapping their foots. Okay? It's gotta be consistent. If you leave anything, like I'm listening to bass players when I listen to bands. You mentioned something about, like what your, the senior was like, oh, nobody notices anyways. Man, I do. Okay? And
Well, I think he
Pop
was talking
was
about
probably-
the other people in the band
For
while
sh-
we're practicing.
for sure, but yeah.
They're all just listening to the drummer.
Yeah, but you won't be playing with high schoolers forever. You'll be
Yeah.
playing with older people eventually, and people that are listening and really interested in what it is you're playing. But it's a school thing. Like it's even having conversations. People don't hear us sometimes. You know what I mean? But some people really, really do, and you want to gear your thoughts and your energy towards the people that are listening. And I'm listening to you. Okay. How about try it without tapping your foot for a minute? Same note. Tap. So inside of this, I hear more rhythms. No, keep going. Sorry. I hear triplets. Triplet. I'm not asking you to play it, but it's there. It's actually in the right pattern. Triplet. It's if you slow it down, it's like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that little skip thing is usually geared around a triplet. It can be moved in different directions and things like that. But our world, this is a direct analogy to like the length of the note and the clarity of attack when we're going like this. Like, I don't want to play with a drummer that's playing like this. Because that sound sucks. I don't want to, my ears don't want to hear that, you know what I mean? I don't want to hear a drummer play like this while we're swinging. Or maybe sometimes, but it would have to depend on the situation. But that would be like us plucking back towards the bridge. Way too close to where the bridge is. Or here, plucking up on the fingerboard. Whereas this is the sweet spot. And I want to hear that consistency from note to note, like all the time. Just play quarter notes with me. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So inside of this, walk the dog, walk the dog, walk, walk, trip on the 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 trip on. Yeah, why am I talking about triplets when we're not playing any triplets? It just helps with like subdividing to make our quarter notes be full, and we don't have to guess quite as much then. Okay, so if you think about that with your quarter notes, then it's going to be swinging. And again, consistency of rhythm and sound all just means so much more. Have you practiced any of this?
A little bit.
Could you play me? How about let's play the first 2 measures.
I'll have to play
Can we
really
do-
slow.
Okay.
I'm not super into this one yet.
How about just the first 2 measures, whatever tempo that you like? Okay. How about half as fast as that? And twice as connected, twice as legato. Take your time. It's okay. Okay, cool. What are you thinking about? How is this happening right now?
I don't know, I'm not really thinking while I play.
Okay, right on, right on. Bad question then. Can you play all of this without moving your left hand one direction to the other?
I'm trying.
So play your pinky where that G is. Play that G. Now play the D that's on the A string.
On the A string?
Sure. The second finger on C. Second finger. And then first finger on E. Second finger on F. First finger on E. Fourth finger on D. That's your, I call that your third finger, but your pinky. Yeah. And then second finger on C. Can I see your bass? Thank you. It's all right there in the key of F because this song is in the key of F, has 1 flat. So you could play all this open. Those first 2, you know, that sound that are G and the D, but they sound different. As opposed to me that sounds more consistent and that would sound better pretty much across the board. Let's see how much of this we can play in just one position. Oh, I gotta shift here. But I can be back in that same position. I gotta shift. I used to play this in high school too. I don't remember this. I'm reading it now for sure. Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. So pretty much everything, I don't know if you watched my left hand at all there. Actually, when I was just playing, what were you looking at? The left hand? So what did you notice?
You just stayed in one spot, except for those couple notes up there.
Right, and just minimal shifts. Like a ninja or like a spider. Right? Really close to the fingerboard. I'm trying to at least. And that's how I can keep that like. And if you noticed it all in the right hand, I'm not alternating. If it was really fast, I might do that. But, you know, and this could be, if y'all are really doing it at 200, to where you need to alternate. But for the most part, I'm keeping that just. I think about, I mean, that's rock and roll. You know, like keeping it really consistent sound. It's the same thing with the walking bass. Try to keep it even.
I think Middleton likes to show off,
Oh, cool.
especially with his top jazz band.
Oh, well then you got some work to do.
Yeah.
Come on, man. When's the show? When's the show?
I think a couple weeks. We're just playing at nursing homes. It's not a concert, but
Nursing homes are great. They're great audiences. They love to listen to music. It's so much fun to play at a nursing home. Playing at nursing homes and also in schools. Some of my favorite venues. Play for kids.
a
is
while ago,
fantastic.
the marching band. I'm in marching band for my saxophone.
Oh.
We went around to all the elementary schools in the district and played our show for them,
Oh, cool.
so that they could like talk about marching band and stuff.
That's cool. I played in marching band too, but I played drums. I played snare drum. Exhausting. I'm so glad I don't do that anymore. Heel to toe, the marching, y'all get into all that
heel
stuff.
toe.
And
There's this one kid that has like he has weird feet, so he literally can't do heel to toe marching.
oh yeah.
So he has to march like that.
Oh, interesting. Kind of stuff. Huh. That's interesting. Cool.
He's our only mellophone player.
Wow.
Our band is small this year.
Oh. I think we had 80 people in our band.
I think that's about what we have.
Yeah. I didn't go to a big high school either. I went to like a private.
Segment's a
private school.
big high school, but I don't know what happened this year. I guess
Yeah.
COVID
Everything's
brought
something
down the
out of
band
going.
numbers.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's rebuilding for everybody. So I need to start wrapping up our lesson for today, but I wanted to open the door for any further conversation. I know that I've been in contact with you through email,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm happy if you want to do closed copy or like do group emails. If you have any questions, you gotta email me. If you're like, Bob, this is so piddling, but I have a question about this. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is like such an easy little thing. Don't even stress about it. Just be like, hey, how do I do this? Okay? And I smile when I get emails from my students too. That's always a good thing, so never feel hesitant about that, okay? Because I think it's cool. I like talking about music. So let's do it. So before we get to that portion though, and while we're still here in person, do you have any other questions?
Not really.
Is there anything that you are hoping for us to talk about today that we didn't quite get to?
I think we covered all of it.
Aside from bass lines, like constructing bass lines and things like that. And perhaps I'll find some good YouTube links or, some things like that I think would be helpful. But clearly you have work in front of you with sound and technique and rhythm. And the biggest things, like all these, there's a bunch of notes that are written, right? And they're all really important. But the most important thing that's happening here is your rhythm. First and foremost. Like, even if the rest of the band can't tell what pitches you're playing, they're going to hear those attacks and they need to be strong and not shy, like all the time, because the band needs to hear those. Like,
well, I mean, usually, like, even like if I don't have it completely done, I did this at last year's concert. We modified my music so that I didn't have to learn the full walk, and I just hit the same note so that we would at least have the rhythm.
well,
Like the first note, I would just play a G
oh yeah.
throughout that measure.
Oh, dude, you could do that here for sure. So say like, oh,
I don't know if that'll fly this year in Jazz 1, but I know we did that last year.
so you could totally do that if you just did these chord changes. Just double them up.
That doesn't mean
really
you shouldn't work on the other.
I know.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I'm not trying to get you out of work.
Yeah.
But this is also, this bass line is okay, but it was written by an arranger, probably a trombone player because they seem to be the ones doing stuff like that. It's not a really incredibly great, well-written bass line. There are some things in here that are good, but it's not like something that you would need to internalize, in my opinion. But you can see there is some of what I just played was actually written there. The doubling ups of C's, D's, E's. The biggest thing that the band needs to hear is
Or
what?
the attacks.
It's the attacks, the rhythm, and then also hearing the roots, the foundation. So if you can get through and, hearing each of these roots, that's what that band needs to hear so they can stack their chords up above it. If you mess up the notes in between, like as you're going from one chord to the next, it's okay. You know, it's not the end of the, and like all in all, it's still just music. Everything's okay. But you have to get to these points. These are like the street signs that the band needs to hear. So everything else that's in between them, meh. As long as you keep good time, you'll still get paid.
And we have a piano player. He's really good. He's been playing since he could talk. He has like perfect pitch and everything. One state, whatever.
Cool.
But he on most of our songs, I think he's playing the bass line.
Oh yeah.
So it's very helpful, especially at our we had our concert a couple
He's
weeks ago.
Doubling it with you? Like kind of playing it together?
Well, no, he's like playing the bass line. So like when I would get lost, I could listen to the piano and get back on.
Oh, that's really cool.
Which is very helpful.
Nice. Excellent. And that person is cool with doing this.
Yeah.
Good. Excellent. Teamwork. Okay. So, great. I would think it's a good idea. I know that you have a recording of our lesson, but I always encourage folks to, the same day, like before you lay your head down to go to sleep tonight, before that point, write down just things that you remember from our conversation. Because you could always go back and watch this, but it might be really boring to go back and watch the whole thing or listen to the whole thing or for whatever reason. I think the imprinting of ideas and then the physical act of writing it down is a really helpful way for me. So I would encourage you to do that.
Like the thing that authors do. Like Stephen King, he would write a book and then put it away for a year, and then he would write what he could remember from memory, and then put that away, and then he would go back and read the original, and then put down like all like match up the things that he got that he remembered, and then he would write a book from there.
No kidding. Well, that's fascinating. I didn't know that. That's really cool.
Me and my mom are Stephen King fans, so.
Have you read The Institute?
No.
I'm reading it right now, actually. I'm 187 pages in. It's really good. But it's my first Stephen King book that I've ever read before.
I've read a couple of the Dark Tower series and it, so.
Cool. Nice. I like to read though, but I just never, Stephen King is new to me, so, but it's super good. And I could see him taking that time, that dedication to his craft for sure. Cool. Well, I'm going to give you this. And make sure you get all your musics, bass lines, and minutes.